He pulled her from danger. The alien woman he saved would later sacrifice everything for him. The mining planet of Zarkin 7 was quiet in the early hours, bathed in a pale blue light from the distant binary stars. Captain Elias Kane walked along the rocky ridge, the ground crunching under the heavy boots of his patrol team. The air was thin and cold, but the humans had adapted, or at least tried to. Zarkin 7 was not a forgiving world. Its caverns and crystal-strewn canyons had swallowed more than one careless miner over the years. Elias' eyes scanned the horizon, alert as always. The colony had reported strange tremors over the past week. Some dismissed them as seismic shifts common to a planet built on unstable mineral formations. Others whispered about alien predators in the deeper caves. Elias, as the security lead, did not rely on whispers. He relied on training, experience, and instincts honed over years of dangerous missions. The patrol moved cautiously. Elias carried a compact pulse rifle, but it was not the weapon he trusted most. His instincts were sharper than any machine. Every creak of the rocks, every gust of wind through the crystal spires spoke to him in ways that computers could never interpret. "Captain, you sure we should be here?" asked Jaren, one of the junior security officers. His voice was tight with tension, and his eyes darted nervously over the jagged cliffs. Elias didn't answer immediately. Instead, he paused, tilting his head to listen. A faint echo reached him, a subtle shift in the cave far below. Something was moving, but it was not human. He felt it in his chest before his mind registered it, a presence cautious yet desperate. "Something's down there," Elias finally said, pointing toward a crystalline cavern that opened like a jagged mouth. "And someone or something is in trouble." The team hesitated. Orders were clear. Stick to patrol paths and avoid deep cave networks unless absolutely necessary. But Elias knew when caution was called for and when action was required. Something in his gut told him that waiting for backup would be too late. Without another word, he moved toward the edge of the cavern. The others followed reluctantly, though their hands gripped weapons with a mix of fear and determination. As they descended, the cavern grew darker, despite the soft glow from the crystal walls. The echoes became clearer, a faint, high-pitched cry that resonated with fear. Elias quickened his pace, leading the way through twisting tunnels that seemed to shift as if the planet itself were alive. Then he saw her. A figure trapped beneath a heavy slab of crystal, shimmering in faint blue light. She was unlike any life form Elias had ever encountered. Her skin was luminescent, almost translucent, with patterns that shifted like liquid light. Her eyes were large, intelligent, and filled with a mixture of pain and trust. She struggled, but the crystal held her fast. Elias didn't hesitate. He knelt beside her and tried lifting the slab. It didn't budge. His team joined him, their combined strength only partially shifting the weight. The cavern trembled, sending shards of crystal falling dangerously close. Dust filled the air, making it hard to breathe. "Stand back," Elias shouted. He scanned the cavern quickly and spotted a smaller rock formation that could serve as a lever. Using all his strength, he pried the crystal slab just enough for the alien woman to slip free. She collapsed in a heap but was alive. Elias reached out instinctively, steadying her as she struggled to stand. Her gaze met his, and in that moment, something unspoken passed between them. Understanding, gratitude, and an undeniable spark of recognition. "Are you hurt?" Elias asked, though he knew her biology might not match human anatomy. She tilted her head, then reached out a hand toward him, pressing something glowing into his palm. It was a small insignia, like a living crystal, pulsing with warmth. Before he could react, the ground shook violently. A minor cave-in began, dislodging rocks from above. Elias grabbed her again, urging her toward the exit, the team following closely behind. Dust and small debris rained down, but they moved as one. When they finally reached open ground, Elias set her down gently. She looked around, as if absorbing the unfamiliar environment, then glanced back at him. There was a recognition there, a silent promise that their paths were now entwined. But before he could speak, she turned and disappeared into the dense crystal forest nearby, moving with an agility that defied human limits. Elias called out, but she did not return. He felt a strange emptiness, a mixture of concern and fascination. Something about her was extraordinary, more than anyone on Zarkin 7 could comprehend. The patrol returned to the colony, reporting a successful rescue, though Elias omitted the part about her disappearance. Nobody would believe it anyway, an alien woman, alive and free, vanishing into the wilderness. It sounded like a story meant for legends. That night, Elias sat alone in his quarters, the insignia still in his palm. It pulsed softly, almost like a heartbeat, casting shadows on the walls. He studied it carefully, wondering about its origin and significance. It was beautiful, unlike any technology or crystal he had ever seen. He sensed it held knowledge, power, or perhaps a message. He couldn't sleep. Thoughts of the woman kept him awake, and he felt a strange anticipation, a sense that saving her was only the first step in a much larger journey. The insignia pulsed again, as if echoing his thoughts, and Elias realized he had no idea what dangers or opportunities lay ahead. Over the following days, strange occurrences began to happen at the colony. Systems would flicker without reason, and sensors detected movement in areas that should have been empty. Miners reported glimpses of a luminous figure moving through the forests at night, always watching, always present. Some claimed it was a hallucination, others whispered of spirits. Elias, however, knew better. One evening, while checking perimeter sensors, he noticed a pattern in the readings. Movement seemed to cluster around abandoned mines and crystal formations. He followed the readings cautiously, heart pounding. There, among the towering crystalline trees, he saw her again. She was observing him, silent and still, her body glowing softly under the twin moons. Elias stepped forward, hands raised in a gesture of peace. She didn't move but met his gaze. He felt a strange connection, as if she recognized him not just as a rescuer but as someone who could change events much larger than themselves. Then, as suddenly as she appeared, she vanished again, leaving behind a faint trail of sparkling light that lingered in the air. Elias returned to the colony with more questions than answers. His instincts told him she was intelligent, perhaps even capable of understanding human language, but her species remained a mystery. Whatever bond had formed during the rescue was powerful, though he could not yet define it. He began to study the insignia in more depth, hoping it might provide some clue. In the weeks that followed, Elias noticed small, inexplicable changes. Equipment malfunctioned in her presence, environmental readings shifted unpredictably, and yet the changes were never dangerous. It was as if the planet itself acknowledged her, bending subtly to her presence. The colony scientists were fascinated but confused, calling it localized quantum anomalies, though Elias suspected something far more intentional. Then came the first attack. A rogue mining drone, likely malfunctioning, went berserk, smashing into the colony's storage units. Humans were trapped, and the drone's automated systems were relentless. Elias led a response team to contain it, but the situation grew critical. Out of nowhere, a glowing figure appeared, moving with impossible speed. She disabled the drone without harming it, her hands leaving streaks of light in the air. The colony watched in awe, and Elias felt a mixture of relief and astonishment. After the chaos, she approached him once more, standing quietly as if waiting for acknowledgement. Elias nodded, understanding without words. She had saved them, just as he had saved her. A silent bond of mutual respect and reliance had formed. That night, Elias gazed out at the twin suns setting over Zarkin 7, feeling the weight of what had happened. He realized that this encounter was more than an isolated event. She had come into his life for a reason, and he was certain their paths would cross again. What he did not know was how deeply intertwined their destinies had become, or how her presence would change the fate of humanity itself. As he drifted to sleep, the insignia pulsed faintly on his nightstand. Elias felt a quiet determination rising within him. Whatever came next, he would be ready. The alien woman he had saved was out there somewhere, and he knew, deep down, that she would not forget him. And neither would he forget her. Weeks had passed since Elias Kane first rescued the alien woman on Zarkin 7. The colony had returned to its regular routine, though the memory of her glowing presence lingered in Elias' mind like a soft, persistent light. He could not forget her, the way she had looked at him with gratitude, the way she moved with a grace that was almost otherworldly. Every evening he checked the insignia on his nightstand, wondering if it held secrets he had yet to uncover. The colony, however, had more immediate problems. Mining operations were expanding rapidly, and with them came the dangers of unstable tunnels, rogue mining equipment, and strange tremors. Elias had grown accustomed to the planet's harshness, but this time the danger came from above, not below. It began quietly. Small scout drones detected alien ships moving just beyond the outer rim of the system. Their ships were sleek, fast, and armed with weapons the humans had never seen. Initially, the colony dismissed them as exploratory vessels, curious about human activity. But then the attacks began, small at first, targeting remote outposts, then larger strikes aimed at storage depots and energy stations. The humans were caught off guard, struggling to mount a defense against enemies who seemed to anticipate every move. One evening, while coordinating defense protocols in the command center, Elias noticed a familiar pulse on the monitors, an irregular energy reading moving through the nearby crystal forests. He frowned. The pattern was unlike anything the colony's scientists had ever recorded. Without hesitation, he grabbed his rifle and motioned for a small team to follow. They moved through the crystalline trees, the soft glow of alien flora casting long shadows in the darkness. Then, suddenly, she appeared. Lyra. She stood silently, her body shimmering, almost blending with the environment. Elias lowered his weapon slightly, recognizing her immediately. "You came back," he said, his voice steady but filled with surprise. Lyra inclined her head. Her movements were deliberate, precise, almost ceremonial. She spoke in a melodic language that Elias could not understand. Yet somehow he felt the meaning behind her words. It was a greeting, a reassurance, and a warning all at once. The situation escalated quickly. Without warning, a squad of the alien ships appeared above the forest. They fired energy pulses that carved through the crystal trees, sending shards flying in every direction. The humans fired back, but their weapons barely scratched the sleek ships. Chaos erupted as the team tried to regroup. Lyra moved with astonishing speed, intercepting the alien energy blasts, redirecting them harmlessly into the environment. She communicated with the humans not through words but through actions, gestures that guided them, instructed them where to move and when to strike. Elias realized that she had not returned for friendship alone. She had returned to help. After the skirmish, Elias demanded answers. "Who are you? Why are you helping us?" Lyra's eyes glowed brighter, and she touched the insignia on his chest, the one he had kept since their first encounter. A rush of images flooded his mind, flashes of her people, vast star systems, and advanced technology. He saw the alien empire that had attacked the colony, a militaristic species bent on domination. He saw her race observing humanity quietly for centuries, evaluating human potential and resilience. She had come to him because she had recognized something rare in humans, something worth protecting: courage, ingenuity, compassion. Qualities that were unpredictable, dangerous to some, but powerful enough to challenge even the most advanced civilizations. Elias felt a mixture of awe and responsibility. The woman he had saved had chosen to stand with humanity, and now the fate of countless lives rested, in part, on his shoulders. Over the next few days, Lyra integrated herself into the colony's defenses. She taught the humans to anticipate enemy movements, showing them how to use the crystal forests and natural terrain to their advantage. The humans learned quickly under her guidance, and their confidence grew. Even the miners, who had previously seen combat as a distant threat, began to understand the stakes. Despite the progress, Elias sensed tension beneath the surface. Some of the colony leaders were suspicious of Lyra, uneasy about the presence of an alien among them. They questioned her motives and doubted the wisdom of following her guidance. Elias defended her quietly but firmly. He had seen her courage, her intelligence, and her loyalty. If anyone could help humanity survive, it was her. Lyra, in turn, demonstrated remarkable adaptability. She quickly learned human tactics, their strengths, and their weaknesses. In one exercise, she predicted the movement of a simulated enemy squad, instructing humans to reposition themselves to maximize effectiveness. When the simulation ended, she smiled, a gesture that was almost human in its warmth. Elias noted the bond growing between them, not romantic, but a deep respect forged in shared danger. Then came the first real test. The alien fleet launched a coordinated strike against the colony, larger than anything humanity had faced before. Sensors detected hundreds of ships moving with precision and coordination that no human strategy could match. Panic spread among the colonists as alarms blared and warning lights flashed. Elias took command, rallying his security teams and miners alike. Lyra moved among them, guiding their actions, teaching them to anticipate enemy tactics. Together, humans and alien worked as one. During the battle, Elias found himself separated from the main group, trapped in a corridor with a damaged energy shield blocking the exit. Enemy drones advanced, firing with deadly accuracy. He gritted his teeth, preparing to hold his ground. Then Lyra appeared, seemingly out of nowhere, her hands glowing with energy. She disabled the drones with precise bursts of power, clearing the path for him. "Follow me," she said, her voice now partially understandable through a translator device she activated. Elias did, moving quickly through the corridors until they reached the command center. There, together, they coordinated a counterattack, using the knowledge Lyra had shared to outmaneuver the enemy fleet. Humans fired from hidden positions, luring the alien ships into traps carefully prepared under Lyra's guidance. By the end of the battle, the colony had survived, though the cost was significant. Structures were damaged, supplies depleted, but the humans had endured. More importantly, they had learned that courage, intelligence, and collaboration could allow them to survive even the most impossible odds. Afterward, Elias approached Lyra as the survivors gathered to assess damage. "You saved all of us," he said quietly. "Why? After everything, why choose to help us?" Lyra's eyes reflected the pale light of the twin moons. "Because you can," she said simply. "Humans have a spark I have not seen in any other species. You may be reckless, flawed, but you have the ability to inspire hope. That is worth protecting." Elias nodded, feeling a sense of responsibility settle over him. The woman he had rescued was no longer just a stranger. She was an ally, a guide, and perhaps the only reason the colony had survived. And yet he sensed that the greater challenges were yet to come. The alien empire had not been defeated, they had only been delayed. Over the following weeks, Elias and Lyra worked tirelessly, preparing the colony for the next encounter. They trained the miners to defend themselves, fortified key locations, and developed communication networks that could withstand enemy disruption. Slowly, the humans adapted to the presence of their alien ally, learning not only to trust her but to emulate her strategic thinking. One evening, while overseeing fortification efforts, Elias and Lyra paused at the edge of a crystal cliff, watching the twin suns set. The planet was quiet for the first time in days, and the beauty of the landscape was almost overwhelming. "You know," Elias said, breaking the silence, "I never imagined saving someone could lead to all of this." Lyra's glowing form shimmered gently. "And yet you did. Your choice mattered, Elias Kane. Every life you save can change the future in ways you cannot yet imagine." He looked at her, understanding the weight of her words. She was right. The universe was vast, filled with threats far beyond human comprehension. Yet, for the first time, Elias felt that humanity had a chance, not because they were the strongest, but because they had something the enemy could not predict: courage, ingenuity, and the willingness to stand for what was right. That night, as the colony rested, Elias examined the insignia she had left with him, still glowing softly in his hand. He realized it was more than a token of gratitude. It was a symbol, a promise, and perhaps even a key to understanding the broader universe that humans were only beginning to encounter. As he drifted to sleep, the last thought in his mind was of Lyra, watching over the colony, ready to act when needed. He knew the battles were far from over. The alien fleet would return, larger and more coordinated. But for now, humanity had gained an ally who could change the course of events, and that, Elias realized, was worth everything. The bond between them had begun in a moment of life and death, but it had grown into something far greater: a shared mission, a partnership forged in courage and trust. And Elias knew, deep down, that whatever challenges lay ahead, they would face them together. The universe was vast, dangerous, and unpredictable, but for the first time, Elias Kane felt hope, not just for the colony, but for humanity itself. The attacks on the colony had grown more frequent. What began as scouting strikes had escalated into full-scale assaults. Human defenses were stretched thin, and despite the tactical brilliance of Lyra, the alien woman who had once been saved by Elias Kane, the colony faced the very real threat of annihilation. Each attack was more coordinated than the last, as if the enemy had learned from every encounter. Elias moved through the command center, issuing orders, checking progress reports, and coordinating countermeasures. His pulse quickened as he scanned the incoming data. Alien ships were approaching from multiple vectors, each equipped with energy weapons that outmatched human firepower. Casualties had begun to mount, though the survivors fought with remarkable determination. Elias' team, trained under his leadership and guided by Lyra's knowledge, was performing admirably. Yet the numbers were against them. Lyra stood beside him, her luminous form casting a soft glow across the control panels. Her eyes reflected the depth of focus and intelligence that had saved the colony so many times before. Elias glanced at her, aware that she had been silently calculating probabilities and strategies far beyond his understanding. "They are adapting," she said in her melodic, partially human-understandable voice. "They learn quickly. If this continues, they will anticipate every move we make." Elias clenched his fists. "Then we need something they won't expect, something they cannot predict." Lyra nodded. "There is a device far beyond your technology capable of ending this fleet, but using it comes at a cost. The energy required is immense and it cannot be activated without a life-force bond." Elias frowned. "A life-force bond?" Lyra looked at him, her expression serious. "Yes. One of us must channel our life energy to power the device. It is not reversible. It is a sacrifice." Elias felt the weight of her words. A sacrifice meant a life, and she was offering hers. He opened his mouth to refuse, but she raised her hand, stopping him. "You cannot prevent it," she said softly. "I chose to help humanity when I was saved. My choice now is in response to that bond. I cannot allow your species to fall, not after the courage you have shown, not after the trust you placed in me." He swallowed hard, conflicted. "There must be another way. We can find a strategy, a weapon, something that doesn't cost a life." Lyra shook her head. I have studied your species. I have observed your strategies and your technology. There is no other way to stop the fleet without this. You have courage, Elias Kane, but there are limits to what humans alone can achieve. You need me to ensure survival. I will not ask for permission. I will act for the greater good. For days, they prepared. Elias organized the humans into defensive positions, fortifying the colony as best they could. Lyra guided them through drills, teaching them to anticipate enemy maneuvers, maximize their firepower, and conserve energy. Despite the knowledge that one of the ultimate solutions required her sacrifice, she remained calm and resolute, instilling confidence in the humans around her. When the fleet finally arrived, it was unlike anything the colony had faced. Hundreds of ships, sleek and merciless, descended from the sky. The humans engaged them bravely, guided by Lyra's tactical commands. Energy blasts illuminated the crystal forests, and the ground shook under the force of explosions. Elias fought alongside his team, coordinating attacks and rescuing miners trapped in collapsing tunnels. Lyra moved through the battlefield like a living force of nature, deflecting enemy fire, disabling drones, and guiding humans to safety. Every movement was precise, every action calculated to protect as many lives as possible. During a particularly intense wave of attacks, Elias found himself cornered with a squad of miners by a collapsing energy conduit. The alien ships had targeted the colony's power grid, hoping to cripple human defenses. Elias fired his pulse rifle continuously, holding off the advancing drones. His strength was waning, but then Lyra appeared, shimmering with an intense glow. With a wave of her hand, the drones were lifted and thrown harmlessly aside. She turned to Elias and nodded, signaling him to follow. They moved quickly through the collapsing corridors until they reached a central chamber, a place Elias had never entered. The room was filled with a strange energy, pulsating and alive. In the center, a large alien device hovered above the ground. Its surface shimmered with intricate patterns of light, and it emitted a low hum that resonated through the floor. "This is it," Lyra said. "This is the device that can destroy the fleet, but activating it requires a life bond. Only one of us can channel the energy, and the process will consume that life force completely." Elias' heart raced. "You mean it will kill you?" Lyra nodded. "Yes. But if I do not act, humanity will be lost. You have courage, Elias Kane. You have inspired hope and resilience, but this battle is beyond human strength alone." He felt a wave of despair. He could not allow her to sacrifice herself, not after all she had done, not after everything they had shared. "There has to be another way," he shouted, his voice echoing against the crystalline walls. Lyra reached out, placing a glowing hand on his shoulder. "No. You have done everything within your power, as have the humans. This is the only way to ensure survival. I will do this because it is right, and because I trust that you and your people will carry the legacy forward." Elias gritted his teeth, struggling with the inevitability of the situation. He wanted to argue, to find another solution, but he knew deep down that she was correct. Humanity had reached the limits of its ability to fight the fleet. The courage and ingenuity of humans could delay defeat, but it could not end it. Only Lyra could. As the fleet approached the planet's atmosphere, Lyra moved to the device. Her body began to glow intensely, energy pulsating around her in waves. Elias watched in awe and sorrow as she channeled her life force into the machine. The patterns of light on the device shifted, growing brighter and more intricate. The air vibrated with energy, and the ground trembled beneath their feet. Elias barked orders to the humans, ensuring that they were in safe positions, though he barely registered their movements. His focus was entirely on Lyra, on the selfless act she was performing to save humanity. Then, with a blinding surge of energy, the device activated. Waves of light shot into the sky, striking the alien fleet. Ships disintegrated, energy cores exploding in brilliant cascades. The enemy was obliterated in a sequence of calculated destruction, leaving nothing behind but scattered debris. The sky cleared and the twin moons reflected the aftermath of the battle. Elias rushed to the chamber, hoping against hope that she had survived. But the device was empty. Lyra was gone. Only the faint pulse of the insignia she had given him remained, resting on the floor where she had last stood. Elias sank to his knees, the weight of loss pressing down on him. He had never felt grief like this before, but he also felt something deeper, a profound respect and admiration for the sacrifice she had made. The humans emerged from their shelters, stunned at the sight of the cleared skies. Elias explained what had happened, sharing the truth of Lyra's sacrifice. There was mourning, of course, but also a growing sense of inspiration. Humanity had survived against overwhelming odds, thanks to courage, ingenuity, and the selfless act of an alien ally. In the following days, Elias organized memorials for those lost in the battle. He spoke to the colonists about Lyra, emphasizing her bravery, her wisdom, and the trust she had placed in humanity. Her sacrifice became a story not of despair, but of hope, a testament to the potential of humans to rise above impossible challenges and to inspire loyalty and courage across species. Elias spent long hours studying the insignia she had left behind. He realized it was more than a token. It was a guide, a symbol of the connection between humans and the universe around them. He understood that Lyra's actions were not just about saving lives. They were about showing humanity what it was capable of when it combined courage with compassion. The colony slowly rebuilt. Humans worked together more efficiently than ever before, their strategies and technology improving with every challenge. They learned that survival depended not only on strength, but also on trust, collaboration, and the ability to inspire one another. Elias, though grieving, felt a quiet determination growing within him. Lyra had sacrificed herself, but her legacy was alive in every human who had fought, survived, and learned from the encounter. The bond they shared, brief but profound, had changed him forever. He understood now that courage was not just about facing danger. It was about making choices that protect others, even when the cost was unimaginable. In the quiet moments, Elias would still look at the insignia, imagining her watching from somewhere, guiding humanity silently. He knew that her presence, though no longer physical, remained with them, and he promised himself that he would honor her sacrifice, ensuring that humanity's growth, courage, and unity would continue to reflect the ideals she had trusted him to uphold. The universe was vast and dangerous, filled with threats that no single species could face alone. But Elias Kane understood something that Lyra had shown him through her sacrifice. Humanity had a spark that could light the darkness, inspire allies, and even challenge the most powerful forces in existence. And with that spark, he knew, the journey was far from over. The skies over Zarkin 7 were clear for the first time in months. The alien fleet that had threatened humanity was gone, disintegrated by the energy of the device Lyra had activated. The colony was battered but alive, and a quiet sense of victory lingered among the survivors. Yet, for Elias Kane, the victory was bittersweet. He walked through the recovering settlement, observing the rebuilding efforts, the laughter of children returning to the streets, and the determination of miners and security personnel working together. Despite the outward signs of hope, Elias could not forget Lyra. The alien woman who had once been trapped and whom he had saved had now sacrificed herself to protect all of humanity. Her courage, her wisdom, and her selflessness had left an indelible mark on him, and he carried both pride and grief in equal measure. Every night he studied the insignia she had left, the glowing crystal that pulsed softly in his hand. It was a reminder of the bond they had formed and the trust she had placed in him. The colony slowly began to recover. Humans worked together to repair the damaged infrastructure, and Elias took on the task of organizing defense systems to prevent future attacks. He coordinated with engineers, miners, and scientists, applying the lessons he had learned from Lyra. Humans were no longer merely reactive. They were strategic, resilient, and inspired. Over time, word of the battle and Lyra's sacrifice spread beyond Zarkin 7. Colonies across human-occupied space received reports of the bravery of Elias Kane and his team, and of the alien ally who had given everything to save them. The story became more than a report. It became a symbol. Humans everywhere were reminded that courage, ingenuity, and selflessness could overcome even the most impossible odds. Elias continued to lead the colony, but he began to notice subtle changes in the environment that hinted at Lyra's presence, even after her disappearance. Small traces of alien energy pulsed through the insignia she had left behind, and sensors sometimes detected faint readings that could not be explained by any human technology. It was as if she was still watching, guiding humanity silently, ensuring that the lessons she had taught were remembered. One evening, Elias stood on a high ridge overlooking the colony, the twin moons casting soft light over the rebuilding settlement. He thought about all that had happened, the danger, the sacrifices, and the courage displayed by both humans and Lyra. He realized that humanity had changed. They were stronger, more unified, and more aware of their potential than ever before. The universe was still vast and dangerous, but humanity had proven that it could stand against overwhelming odds and survive. The insignia pulsed gently in his hand, and Elias felt a connection to Lyra that went beyond life and death. He imagined her watching from afar, proud of the humans she had saved and the choices they had made. The bond they had shared, brief as it was, had created a ripple effect that extended far beyond Zarkin 7. It was a reminder that actions driven by courage and compassion could shape the destiny of entire civilizations. As the months passed, the colony thrived. Humans applied the strategies and technologies Lyra had introduced, adapting them to their own needs. Mining operations became more efficient and safer, defenses were strengthened, and the settlement began to attract new settlers. Humanity's presence in the galaxy was growing, and the story of Elias Kane and Lyra became a source of inspiration for those who sought to explore the stars. Elias himself had changed. He was more patient, more strategic, and more attuned to the possibilities that lay in cooperation and trust. He often spoke to the young recruits about courage, teamwork, and the importance of protecting others, drawing on the lessons he had learned from Lyra. The humans who had once been ordinary colonists now carried within them the spark of something greater, a reminder that bravery and selflessness could create hope even in the darkest times. Though Lyra was gone, her legacy lived on. The colony erected a monument in her honor, a crystalline structure that reflected the light of the twin suns. It was simple yet elegant, symbolizing both her sacrifice and the unity she had inspired. Elias often visited it, standing silently and remembering the alien woman who had risked everything to save him and countless others. One day, while overseeing the expansion of the colony, Elias received a message from an exploration team in a distant sector. They had discovered remnants of alien technology that matched the patterns of Lyra's insignia. The discovery suggested that her species had left behind guidance, tools, and knowledge to assist humanity in navigating the broader galaxy. Elias felt a surge of hope and determination. Lyra's influence was not limited to a single act of heroism. It was a long-term investment in humanity's future. He realized that humanity had the potential to grow stronger, to explore farther, and to form alliances with other species across the stars. The universe was vast, but humans had something that no amount of technology or strategy could replace: courage, ingenuity, and the ability to inspire loyalty and trust. These qualities, Lyra had shown him, were the true strengths of a species capable of shaping its own destiny. Elias continued to lead, but he also taught. He trained new recruits, shared knowledge of strategy and diplomacy, and encouraged exploration. Humans were no longer isolated on Zarkin 7. They were part of a larger universe, capable of forging connections with other civilizations. The memory of Lyra, the alien woman who had sacrificed herself for humanity, was always present, guiding their decisions and reminding them of the values that made them extraordinary. Years passed, and the colony flourished. Children grew up hearing the story of Elias Kane and Lyra, inspired by their courage and selflessness. Humans began to expand further into space, forming alliances, discovering new worlds, and learning from the remnants of Lyra's species. The universe remained full of challenges, but humanity faced them with confidence, creativity, and determination. Elias often stood on the cliffs overlooking the colony, reflecting on the journey that had begun with a single act of courage, the rescue of a trapped alien woman. That moment had set in motion events that would change the course of human history. It had revealed the potential of humanity to rise above fear, to act selflessly, and to inspire hope across species. The insignia, still pulsing faintly, rested in a secure place within the colony. It served as a reminder that the choices humans made, no matter how small, could have consequences far beyond their understanding. Lyra had trusted them, and humanity had proven worthy of that trust. Elias smiled quietly, feeling a sense of peace. The universe was vast, unpredictable, and full of unknown dangers, but humanity had discovered something essential: the ability to act with courage, intelligence, and compassion. They had survived because they were human, and they had learned that their greatest strength lay not in weapons or technology, but in the values that guided their actions. In the quiet of the night, as the twin moons cast soft silver light across the crystalline landscape, Elias imagined Lyra watching from afar. He felt her presence in the gentle glow of the insignia, in the harmony of the colony, and in the spirit of the humans who continued to grow stronger each day. Her sacrifice had not been in vain. It had set humanity on a path to greatness, showing them that even in the darkest times, courage and selflessness could light the way. The colony thrived, humans explored the stars, and the memory of Lyra's sacrifice endured. Elias Kane knew that her legacy would guide generations to come, shaping humanity's destiny in ways he could not fully comprehend. She had shown them what it meant to act with purpose, to protect others, and to inspire hope. And in doing so, she had ensured that humanity's journey among the stars would continue, brighter and stronger than ever before. As Elias watched the horizon, he understood a truth that Lyra had quietly taught him through her actions. The universe was full of danger, but it was also full of opportunity. Humans had the ability to rise to every challenge, to act with courage, and to create a future defined not by fear, but by hope. And with that understanding, Elias Kane felt ready to lead humanity into a new era, carrying with him the memory and lessons of the alien woman who had sacrificed everything for their survival. The twin moons glimmered above, and Elias felt a quiet determination swell within him. Humanity had been tested and they had endured. The galaxy was vast, the challenges many, but humanity had discovered its own power, the power to inspire, to endure, and to rise above any threat. And though Lyra was gone, her spirit remained, guiding them forward, reminding them of the courage and hope that lay at the heart of humanity itself. The stars stretched endlessly above Zarkin 7, and Elias Kane knew that the journey had only just begun. Humanity had learned to survive, to trust, and to grow. And somewhere out there in the vastness of space, Lyra's presence lingered, a quiet promise that she would always be watching, always guiding, and always inspiring. With that knowledge, Elias Kane turned back toward the colony, ready to lead humanity into the future, stronger, wiser, and more united than ever before. The universe awaited and humanity was ready.